नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणी निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पश्चात्य देशतारिणी। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Welcome everybody. We will begin to discuss the content of today's discussion: money, Mahabharata, and mind. One of the great historian, he explained that normally and generally human beings are appreciated by their ability to produce, right? Recently Tata passed away. The entire country acknowledged his departure because he was a significant contributor, because he produced. So so it is a human reality that someone who is able to produce is recognized, except in war, when they rank according to their ability to destroy. Other than the war, everywhere we see that those who can produce, they're appreciated, they're glorified, they're eulogized. Every economic system, sooner or later, rely on profit. Now we're discussing the reality of the external world. So what is the reality of the external world? Nobody can deny it. Sooner you accept, better you are stabilized. Rest everything, every economic system sooner or later rely on profit. Rest everything, slavery, volunteer, force, ideological enthusiasm, prove unproductive. Therefore, Lord Ramachandra in the Ramayana and Narad Muni in the Mahabharata made a profound statement. They said that Dharma should not destroy Artha, and Artha should not destroy Dharma, right? Because they're integrated. Therefore, in the Dharmic tradition, we see Lakshmi and Narayan are always together. And many times we have discussed this issue about how, in the context of our Vedic literature, we see such a profound integration between Lakshmi and Narayan. Wherever there is Lakshmi, when Rukmini asked that question, what is the process of making Lakshmi stay forever? It is not possible for ordinary living entities to keep Lakshmi with them because she's chanchal, right? You cannot keep Lakshmi by your power. Lakshmi stays by her grace. But with Lord Narayan, she eternally resides. And therefore, when Rukmini asked this question, how do make Lakshmi stay with you for good? He said, Lakshmi stays only with Narayan for the longest of the time and forever, eternally residing with him. So therefore, if you want to keep Lakshmi, then you have to have Lord Narayan also. That is one of the aspect of how to have Lakshmi with oneself, right? So therefore, the concept of mental health is also connected to prosperity. Unfortunately, in the modern world, the concept of wealth is very gross, right? We see wealth is connected to gross reality. But when you study the Vedas, when you study the Dharma Shastras, like every meaning will have three levels of reality: Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adhyatmika. Adi Bhautika means the reality of the physical sense. You can't deny that. Having a good health, that's a physical reality. Then second, the Adi Daivika reality. Adi Daivika reality is connected to our mental frame, our mental stability. And Adhyatmika reality is connected to our Atma. And you take anything in this world has a three realities. For example, in the Vedas, there are description of Soma Yagya. Now, when somebody performs the Soma Yagya, there are Soma Yaji. Soma Yaji means those Yagik Brahmanas who perform Soma Yagya. Very few are there. So when they perform Soma Yagya, the first level of reality is collecting that Soma juice, Soma Rasa. The Soma Rasa is not necessarily only liquor which is found in the heavenly planets. There are particular creepers mentioned in the Vedas. When they are crushed in a particular way, right? Like when you make a buttermilk, chas, the kind of chas people eat now, it has a physical reality, but the prana does not exist in that. There is a fellow, a South Indian guy. He has a he has a podcast. He talks about food, and he explains that scientifically, your nutrients, when you store food in the fridge and then you reheat in the microwave, it does not destroy any nutrients. He said scientifically it is not acceptable what the people say. Those who are addicted to eating and causing lot of burden to women, they want fresh food. But the fridge and microwave do not produce any harm scientifically. Is he wrong? We don't have to immediately attack. But what it doesn't understand, they may not be stale, but the prana does not exist in that. You cannot measure prana through the scientific method, right? So therefore you can maintain the food fresh. It is but natural. When it is frozen, something is frozen, just like we see in Siachen Glacier, when you know, the trekkers and sometimes the army people, when they are destroyed by the avalanche, they are killed by the avalanche, or we call them hutatma, when they become hutatmas, the body remains intact. It doesn't age. But उसमें प्राण नहीं है. There is no prana in that. Similarly, a food which may sound to be fresh in the refrigerator and in the microwave does not contain the prana there. So therefore, the Soma Yagya people, they had a particular way to extract that Soma Rasa. Not through refrigerator, not through finding the herbs and, importing elsewhere. So the whole method was practiced. We see that. Like you have the recipe. But unfortunately, when someone who gave that recipe, they have some specialty in their hand. When they cook, they may not go through the measured way. They just throw things. But the food what they've cooked has a special taste. And the same recipe is given to somebody else. They have been very precise in putting the ingredient. It is not bad. It doesn't has a bad taste, but there is something which is missing. Because the recipe same hai, why the taste is different? Because there is a distinction in regards to the process, fine, and also the prana is very important. So the somarasa extraction, making, drinking is a physical layer and itself has a great complexity. Then the second layer of somarasa is connected to mind, because soma, lunar. Soma is Chandra, right? So that Soma, the mantras, what do? They basically nourish your mind along with the first layer. And the third layer is the layer of Brahmarasa. The essence of the Somarasa is connected to the relationship of Atma with the Supreme. Now, if somebody says, no, the most important is the Atmic one, rest everything are non-required, non-essential, we make bigger mistake also. Because when there is Vairagya without Vigyan, Viveka Rahita Vairagya, Viveka Rahita Vairagya becomes very counterproductive, right? You cannot push and force someone to go to the Adhyatmic meaning of prosperity while somebody is suffering on a first stage itself. They will not be able to handle it. Therefore, Lord Ram and Narad Muni, imagine how profoundly they spoke the same thing. It's almost like the repetition. Whatever Valmiki Maharshi has spoken, it is almost the same verses spoken by Narad Muni during the Mahabharata राजस्वीय सैक्रिफाइस. धर्म से अर्थ का नाश नहीं होना चाहिए और अर्थ से धर्म का नाश नहीं होना चाहिए. Therefore, all the three, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, they go together. They do not go against each other. There is a clear mention in the Mahabharata. Those who pursue only spirituality, प्योर आत्म तत्व पे, उन्हें जीवन का सुख नहीं मिलेगा. And those who pursue only self, which is connected to flesh, उन्हें आध्यात्मिक, they will not achieve आध्यात्मिक सुख. So what does it do? It creates a conflict. What is that conflict? That somebody is only pursuing materially, they get pleasure, but they are frustrated. And they come to the path of spirituality. And now, because of the newfold enthusiasm, they consciously or unconsciously undermine the physical reality and totally deny the natural need to exist. Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, right? And of course, the Maithun also. When suddenly, if it is given up, it may give you the feeling of a profound experience, but it is not sustainable. Just like somebody is fasting, when you're fasting for 3 hours, it doesn't bother you. You fast for 6 hours, you feel hunger, right? Like somebody recently during the Jain Pardushan, they fasted first time, as many days they are supposed to fast. So this lady was telling that I was constantly hungry. There was purifying impact, but the fasting day after day, it did not make me, it stopped my restlessness, but did not stop my hunger. My hunger was increasing. So therefore, when harmonizing these three things, what does it do? It gives rise to stability. It gives rise to growth. And therefore, when you study the great philosophers, great historians, they have a same understanding, because understanding comes from observation. And that observation is corroborated with the Shastras, then you find so similar psychology between what the Shastras are saying and what the common sense is saying. So what does the common sense say? Common sense says a living entity requires that stability. And what is that stability? The stability of feeling successful. Right? It is so true, as this philosopher historian says, कि all other process, if it is not an economical profit, when people are perpetually forced to do something which is not profiting them at least some time, the sustainability of that event does not continue to exist. And therefore, Lord Ramachandra, in the Valmiki's Ramayana, when he was speaking to Bharat, he does not take any relationship for granted. Rather, every relationship Sri Ramachandra sees through the eyes of common sense. He sees through the eyes of mental reality. There is no assumption. And he told Bharat, my dear Bharat, even if somebody loves you, but if you do not reciprocate with them, if you do not give salary on time to your workers, what does it do? It gives rise to rebel by the people. It gives rise to frustration within their heart. So Lord Ram did not take any relationship for granted. It's so profound that just because he's God, therefore I can be unreasonable. The God of Sanatan Dharma is the most logical, reasonable, law maker, law avoiding personality. Only for the sake of Leela. For the sake of Leela, sometime he breaks. But for the sake of life, he never breaks the law. Please understand. So therefore, Lord Ram told Bharat, if you do not remunerate people on the right time, it doesn't matter how they love you, they'll be upset and angry. Because conditional love has a limitations. Conditional love has a limitation. Either you become a rebel against someone who is not treating you properly, or you become so enslaved you don't continue to exist only on a normal platform. आपको एक अतिरेकी बनना ही पड़ता है, मेंटल अतिरेकी बनना पड़ता है. Your ideas, your logic will be flawed. Why? Because it doesn't make any sense to live a life which is stable and certain, right? So therefore, when we see the great teachers of the dharmic tradition, they have the powerful understanding of synchronization, harmony. Recently, I met somebody from, in one place in America. He works in Costco. A very interesting history of this large warehouse, right? People buy in wholesale. A Jewish man started this business. A product in the market, some special product to come in the market, they do research to 5 to 7 years. Now, what is it? Three things: convenience, quality, and price. One director was telling this three triangle, when there are these three triangles involved, convenience होना चाहिए, quality होनी चाहिए, price होना चाहिए. So by law, Costco does not make profit over products. He was giving about one product, no, about a chicken. He said for those who eat non-veg, outside the cost is $14-15, but when you buy from their quality organic, it falls to $5 to $7. And the worker who work there, they earn more than 15 to no, they earn more than $28 to $30 per hour compared to somebody is making $15. Right? The whole focus of this company has been providing these three things. They do not spend 1 rupee or $1 on promoting their product on any ad. Hmm? So now this kind of stuff, when you study and read, you feel, wow, there is something special here. So therefore, When there is a proper understanding and implementation of that, it gives perpetual happiness to large number of people for long time, and it minimizes inhibition and conflict and pain. We are not saying that the pain will not come, but the pain will be so reduced, like Rupa Goswami explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that when there is a volcano eruption in the midst of the ocean, it doesn't bother so much. Volcano eruption is not denied, but volcano eruption is not given attention to such an extent where it harms our life. नहीं पानी के अंदर आया, right? So therefore, the first primary principle of resources, it comes in the physical value only, because our reference point is physical. Our reference point is Annamaya Kosh. Our reference point is satisfying the gross senses. Only those who are able to satisfy them, then they can say these are not valuable things. इसका कोई महत्व नहीं है. जिसका खाना हुआ है, जिसके पास रहने के लिए जगह है, जिसके पास घूमने के लिए ट्रेन है, कार है, बस है, गाड़ी है, whatever resources they have, until they get it, it doesn't matter how strong you are philosophically. The reference point being physical, it has the power to cause pain to us. Therefore, in the Bhagavatam 10th canto, just for the sake of space, imagine we hear one side of the story sometime, that those who worship their birth land, right? Their own birthplace, their own birth to be worshipable, they are having the intelligence of Sa eva gokhara. That is there. It has a one reference point. It has one purpose to mention. But when Sri Krishna, after killing all the Rakshasas who were connected to Kamsa, and after killing Kamsa, what do you think he did? It's very significant to understand. Lord Sri Krishna, he reached out to all the scattered Yadavas, Bhojas, Vrishnis. They were scattered beyond their own birthplace. He brought them all in one place. He called them and he assured them, he promised to them that आज से आप सुखी रहोगे, you will be happy and satisfied. I understand your pain of not having a place for you to live. Rather than telling them it was good that you are suffering so that you can remember me, Lord Krishna understood their predicament. He gave value to their suffering. And he assured them, since now you are back to your original place in Mathura, you'll experience satisfaction. Right? Krishna did not philosophize it. And therefore, Yudhishthira Maharaj, when he was asked by Yaksha, what is happiness? Right? Unfortunately, when you ask this question to many people who have unevolved spirituality, right? Or a spirituality which is not practical, they will focus more on the philosophical reality. Oh, there is no happiness in this world. It is all suffering. All suffering is caused by our God so that we be serious in life. Some other consciously, unconsciously blaming God for our suffering and finding some good in that also, even though it may not be directly involved. Right? So, rather than doing that, Sri Krishna provided them basic necessity of their life to be stable. And therefore, when Yaksha asked this question to Yudhishthir about happiness, what a profound but very simplistic answer. यमराज और युधिष्ठिर के बीच में चर्चा हो रही है. यमराज is also Mahajan. Yudhishthira is Mahajan, trained in the Vedas, dear friend of Krishna, right? Devout. Pandavas are very devout, more than friend to Krishna. Imagine for that family, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita and the Bhagavatam. They're not ordinary people. They were not priests to be, lover of Krishna. It was their essence only. So if it is the essence of Yudhishthira Maharaj, when Yaksha asked him the question, what is happiness in this world? What a simple and very profound, very practical उत्तर दिया उन्होंने. Right? Sometimes you see people who are rigid in their spirituality at the cost of suffering to such an extent. Burden, 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 taking guilt about it, causing harm to themselves, their mental health, and eventually becoming a subtle atheist psychologically. Subtly, it's not necessarily uh, spoken words, but on the mental platform, it could give rise to questioning their existence and questioning the impact of God in their life. And therefore, when Yaksha asked this question to Yudhishthir, such a beautiful answer, Yudhishthira Maharaj said, happiness is very simple, Yaksha, in this world. And Yaksha did not denigrate his answer. He said, the first thing, क्या आप गरम खाना घर से खाते हो? Where your food is coming from your home only. Garam khana. Yudhishthira Maharaj is telling to Yaksha, the great Mahajan, did not bring philosophy there. Second answer he gave, where you don't have to travel so much for your work. Third answer he gave, when you don't have loans to pay. ऋण का भाव होना चाहिए, ऋण नहीं होना चाहिए. Right? If these level of realities one has not achieved most of their life, constantly struggle to get food, constantly traveling far away places, and perpetual debt on their head, is it possible for someone to be stable in life? And without stability, is it possible for them to inquire about the higher values of life? Is it possible meditating with a empty stomach and experiencing spiritual realization? Impossible. It doesn't happen. It is not allowed. It doesn't make sense. Right? Therefore, Krishna wants to provide kshetra. हर एक को क्षेत्र देना चाहते कि you function in that kshetra. When you function in that kshetra, keeping that as a reference, the physical reference has to be there to experience physical happiness, mental happiness, and then slowly transcend from them. You do not transcend from minus to spirituality. You transcend positive to spirituality. ये बहुत ही मुश्किल है. And therefore, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he explained, if suffering is an impetus for advancement in spiritual consciousness, then every person who suffers health, poverty should be the best candidate to practice spirituality. But what you see, we find them to be agnostic. We find them to be atheistic. We find them to be angry also with God for their suffering. It doesn't happen. Therefore, suffering is not at all the cause of your spiritual advancement. Rather, it is counterproductive. If suffering was cause of Pandava's great growth, why in the world Sri Krishna repeatedly meet the Pandavas, offer them solace, offer them, wealth also, not him directly, but uh, the uh, the uh, the Dwarkavasis had offered it to Pandavas. Pandavas denied to take it. They said, we'll find our own means. हम लोग लड़ेंगे, we will fight and win it. And Krishna told the Satyaki and Balramji, I told you he will not accept. Huh? So therefore, the point we are making, if it was not a reality, why in the world that Sri Krishna comes to the Pandavas, supports them to become resourceful? Therefore, one of the name of Arjuna is Dhananjay. धन को संचय करने वाले, रिसोर्सेस को एकत्रित करने वाले. I think Sripad Madhvacharya explains Yudhishthir Maharaj represents Dharma, Bhima represents Kama, and Arjuna represents Artha, and Nakul and Sahadev, silent people. There is a significant meaning. They represent moksha. Moksha is never active. Moksha is the consequences of dharma, artha, kama. And the power to integrate came from they being married to Draupadi. वो सबको एकत्रित एक साथ में लाती है. She has the power to bring to them together. So therefore the point is, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, when they are harmonized, then one can experience real satisfaction. Therefore, Yudhishthir, rather than becoming very philosophical here, right? One more question was asked by his teacher Yaksha. What is the Atma of the father? तो बोल सकते हैं कि Atma of the father is his devotion to God. Right? His very essence is service to Lord Narayan. That is profound truth. We all want that. But again, Yudhishthira Maharaj answered in a most profound way. It may not be technically correct. Right? What did Yudhishthira say? The Atma of the father is the son. Putra, right? When we say Putra is not only son, Putra, Putri, they are almost close to each other. But here Yudhishthira was told Putra. I remember, telling this story in one place. And one senior person came and he said, "Oh, how this? We have never heard like that." He was getting into technical reality, not understanding the context of the cultural reality. When there is no son in a family, there is no child in the family. One of the greatest poverty in the modern world is that even those who have money, they can't bear child. Those who have money, they, other class of people, they slander having children. Somebody was telling me recently that somebody told them that having children is one of the greatest selfish act parents can ever do. Imagine. So our narratives become so dangerous where the child is considered as a burden, when Yudhishthir is considering child to be the very Atma of the father. इसके बारे में सोचो. The legacy, when it becomes very important, and who does the take your legacy forward? Generally in business, in kingdom, in any kind of private venture, you want your child to take it forward. Right? Ratan Tata may not have had sons, but ultimately there had to be a Tata name for the successor also. Because there is a greater chance of the legacy person to carry forward the spirit of his ancestor, even though he is not his own father. All the trusted wanted like that, all the board members wanted like that. No, they appointed him. So when they appointed him, what does it do? It gives rise to contentment. In the Bhagavatam, Bhishma Dev is passing away. And what does Krishna do? Krishna brings the Pandavas to Bhishma Dev. We come to the Pandavas. What does Krishna do to the Pandavas? He tells them to dress gorgeously. However many times you tell the story, it is less only. He dressed them gorgeously and he brings the Pandavas. They could be an obstacle in Bhishma Dev's final departure. where he's supposed to concentrated on Lord Narayan, and Lord Narayan was standing there. When Lord Narayan is there, why do you need anybody else? But Narayan is much more magnanimous and real. Our definition of God sometimes founds, he looks like a very, Abrahamic in nature, envious, autocrat, doesn't love you loving anybody else. But here our Lord Krishna, his concept of Godhood is so profound. He wants Bhishma to experience not only gratitude towards Krishna, but also satisfaction in finding the legacy. Bhishma was happy to see the Pandavas being a ruler of the world. Whether you take the verses in the Bhagavatam or you see verses in the Mahabharata, what does it indicate? Now he felt satisfied. Oh, now it's good. At least at the end of the day, Hastinapur has someone to sit on. So there was a satisfaction and there was a gratitude towards Krishna. Right? So one cannot be grateful just because they want to be grateful. Gratitude has to come through the process of satisfaction. एक समाधान भी आना चाहिए. You know, just like humility. You cannot be humble unless you experience some success. That humility is very depressing. नम्रता जहां सक्सेस के साथ में जुड़ा नहीं है. Right? Without success, humility will cause a depression at the end of the day. And without humility, success will become very arrogant. आत्मविश्वास और नम्रता ये दोनों साथ में जाएंगे. इसीलिए when somebody is competent to contribute, the only work you have to do is to help them to be grateful, help them to become humble. But those who are having nothing at their disposal, generally, you have to teach them many things. Right? Therefore, Prabhupada explained that दरिद्रता सारे अच्छे गुणों को नष्ट कर देता है. Poverty destroys all the good qualities of people, good sense of the people. Seamlessness of the people is destroyed, and therefore our Dharma Shastras, our Vedic Shastras are so profound in understanding this, giving this understanding of integration of Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, and Adhyatmika. Right? We need that prosperity, the relationship prosperity, the happiness prosperity, the people around us giving that prosperity. Right? When that prosperity is there, what does it do? It gives a proper wholesome idea also. I just wrote an article about the distinction between Mahabharata and Gita and Bhagavatam. Right? These are the two most important books for the Vaishnavas. But apparently they are contradictory. One is asking him, one who has given up everything, one who has already abandoned his weapon is asking him to take his weapon. Yuddhaya Krita Nishchaya, Krishna is telling Arjuna. And other, the Bhagavatam, is glorifying somebody who has given up the weapon, who's dying within 7 days. So which is correct? Gita is correct or Bhagavatam is correct? They are not to be compared. It is not that one is higher, one is lower. They are both required according to what is your context. I gave that example of a lady, one devotee's wife, she was passing away. She had a cancer. So when she was covered with all kinds of tubes, she was in hospital gown. And she received a phone call from her granddaughter. It was pre-planned that she's going to call because she was getting married. And this lady had the sensibility rather than remaining in the hospital gown with all the tube, she requested the doctor and they gave her a silk sari. She wore a silk sari. She put some ornament. She was presentable to her granddaughter who was about to begin her life, a happy life. This lady did not use that opportunity to make her feel, oh, this world is useless. What is marriage? What is the relationship? At the end of the day, they'll all be destroyed. You should focus on this. She did not add or forced vairagya on the girl who was about to get married. And once the recording was done, once the call was done, she went back to her original dress. Right? So the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita can be reconciled easily. Therefore, the Gita teaches to be capable externally, which ultimately, because it is connected to Dharma, if makes Arjuna capable, it satisfies his inner self also. And the Bhagavatam teaches the inner self to be powerful so that even the external self is disturbed sometime. You don't consciously disturb it. You consciously don't ruin it, right? It will happen. The suffering will come. The pain will come. One doesn't have to try for it. When such suffering comes, it is not that is the time you have to be internally stable. Whether there is suffering or not, that understanding, you know, there is nothing significance internally, but significance external in regards to creating a legacy. And therefore, Bhishma was able to harmonize departing from the world and seeing stability in the world. Because I pass away, the world does not pass away. I pass away, the family does not pass away. Therefore, my departing from this world does not change anything in this world. So, therefore, condemning this world as a useless place is an utter selfishness, right? And therefore, Gita focuses on the realities of life, and Bhagavatam focuses on the heart of life. Or both are not conflicting each other. One is speaking about the laws of life, and one is speaking about love of God. ये दोनों जब एक दूसरे से जुड़े हुए हैं, just like Lord Ram told, dharma artha should not be disintegrated. They're integrated in nature. Then what does it do? It gives rise to prosperity of relationship also. दरिद्रता केवल धन का नहीं होता. Today there is wealth. People get food compared to previously. लोगों को कपड़े मिल जाते हैं. Right? The quality of food may be questionable. 100% very questionable. But the production of the food, factory produced, right, is so much available. But if you see that the quality of the food, the prana of the food, the affection towards that food is coming less and less. Children prefer, the family prefers eating in a hotel rather than eating in the home with others. ये दरिद्रता का लक्षण है. Yes, in emergency, again, if you are desiring to be happy in a place where it is commercial, yes, they are existing because they are meant to be going for an emergency situation sometime. But the real satisfaction, the happiness on a physical, mental, emotional happens when that food is cooked by the mother, cooked by the wife, or cooked by the families nowadays. साथ में करने से जो सुख मिलता है, जो प्रॉस्पेरिटी का अनुभव होता है, वो एक अलग ही बात है. And there are hundreds and thousands of people, rich people, they have physical cash, but do not have the good fortune of eating from their mother's hand. ये दरिद्रता का लक्षण है धन होने पर भी. Right? And others, they may have less resources, but they have a satisfaction of enjoying something tangible within that framework. तो क्या हो गया? Emotionally you become rich. You become rich with gratitude. You become rich with sensitivity, right? All these qualities of mental level, emotional level, physical level, because somebody is cooking. एक्चुअली प्रैक्टिकली आपके लिए कुछ बना रहे, फिजिकल हो गया, इसलिए आपके मन में कृतज्ञता आ गया. एंड बिकॉज दैट इज कुक्ड विथ लव एंड डिवोशन ऑफर टू you know yajna, it has a spiritual reality also. Physical is there, mental is there, and spiritual is there. By what process? By simply cooking, by simply offering water, by simply offering a flower, whatever it is, basically. When somebody offers work, I'm there to help you, clean this pot, clean this bartan, clean this kitchen. Right? One may say, "Arey, isme kya hai? What is their devotion in that?" That's the reference point. Somebody extend themselves to you, helping you. Your burden is minimized. You develop gratitude. You appreciate other person. And those emotions where they're awakening such emotions, they become spiritual in nature also. So, right, therefore, the mental health and money are so deeply connected with each other. Huh? And those who are integrating these three things as prescribed in the Gita, as prescribed by the Lakshmi, as prescribed by different teachers of physical level, mental level, emotional level, then what does it do? It actually connects us to Artha. Money is one aspect of Artha. And therefore, the language, your mother tongue, gives a deeper natural meaning to Artha. But when we translate Artha to money, we make greatest of the mistake. Money is one aspect of Artha, important aspect of Artha, but it is not only the meaning of Artha, money, right? It is very integrated. As I said, on a family level, on the food level, on the relationship level, on the ethical gross dhana level, right? And then in regards to बायोलॉजिकल लेवल ऑल्सो, हर दृष्टिकोण से जब वो इंटीग्रेटेड हो जाता है एज मच एज पॉसिबल, then it is but natural that one will not complain about the mind. 50, 70 years ago, our grandparents, parents, they never complained about anything in regards to mind because their mind was occupied doing something tangible. And therefore, more than grumbling, they were men and women of gratitude because they were prosperous according to their capacity, physically also and mentally also. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this very profound conversation of integrating Gita and Bhagavatam together. We encourage you to ask questions. You can raise your hand on Zoom, or you can put your question in the chat box. In the meanwhile, Prabhuji, we have seen in spiritual societies as well as in other organizations, when wealth enters, it tends to corrupt. So how does one refrain from being ill-affected by wealth?
It does not corrupt very clearly. If wealth has to corrupt, and Lord Narayan has Lakshmi with him all the time. She's a representation of wealth. Pandava's Dhananjay, he had to be corrupted. You may say these are scriptural story. Come back to Indian history. Till the time of Britishers coming to India, Bharat for that matter, was able to harmonize between Dharma and Artha. The GDP was much higher. This is not my report. Some of the famous personalities have, they're historians of the economics. So they were able to grow it so nicely. So there was a harmony between wealth and dharma. which Lord Ram had spoken, which Narad Muni had spoken. But unfortunately, where does it become a problem? It becomes problem when there is an extreme degree of hatred or obsession with it. Right? Then suddenly, if you study the nature of many, spiritual organization or spiritual communities, like I read that quote from Will Durant. He said, any other method in developing a community other than basically putting the important principle of profit will only cause problem. Right? Assumptions are there. We expect people to do something without rewarding them for their work. Right? Some kind of reward has to be there. The best reward which the Shastras recommend. Ramchandra is giving salary. I am not saying it is a Valmiki Rama and the Lord Ram only speaking to Bharat. Huh? When he is so practical, when there is a practicality with that spiritual touch, then the extremes do not happen because there are a recorded history. Right? In Christianity, they began with the concept of poverty. Poverty, simplicity, and austerity. But if we see if you go to the Vatican, it's a land of unjustified means also. So when there is a conflict between so-called poverty but limitless prosperity, it will give rise to the mafia coming into the picture. Right. But if you take an ordinary company like Costco, right? Or if you take, I was listening to one atheist, he was debating with a Christian minister, very famous. He's not a minister, but Jordan Peterson is a psychologist. So this atheist was saying, he said, the Stoic philosopher can make much more sense to the Western world. And what is that philosophy? Courage, wisdom, moderation, and justice. Right? So in the Mahabharata, there is something exactly like this only. When you find these qualities, that's the representation of God. I am the ability in man. Right? So therefore, corruption does not happen because of money, because corruption happens because we have a slander against wealth. And that shows that there is a great subtle attachment to it, and both are dangerous for one's growth.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Can I request Rishabh Prabhu to please ask his question?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. It was very, very informative, Prabhuji. I cleared many of my doubts, Prabhuji. I just raised my hand to say thank you very much, Prabhuji. It really helped me a lot. Cleared many of my doubts, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Pratik Kapoor has a question here. Today's youth have lost thousands of crores in a day trading stock market. How to overcome the temptation of quick money? Somebody sent me the article. Raghunath, who is into business of managing finance. He said 93% of Indian people who have invested in stock market have lost, and only 7% people have made money. Why? Because they have wanted to make money driven by emotions, not driven by strategy. And that strategy is given by Lakshmi Devi herself in the Mahabharata to Rukmini Devi. I wrote a book, Money and Mahabharata, quoting all this from the Mahabharata only. It's so profound. And one of the main principles she take care of making money is entrepreneurship, hard work, using the buddhi also. Whether it is adhyatma or money making, when bhavana is involved, when our reference point to make decision is emotions, then you will always make a mistake. It is just like marrying only. Somebody marries because why? Because I liked her. I feel good about her, I feel good about him. But if you ask them logical question, these are the realities. What will you do? Oh no, no, मैं दिल से किया है. No, निर्णय दिल से feel किया कर, दिल से feel करते. We feel from the heart, but take decision from the head. So if you have taken decision from the heart and not from the head, you tend to make blunders beyond reality. Therefore, there is no such thing as driven by feelings. We feel the feelings. Heart से feel करते हैं, but निर्णय हमेशा बुद्धि से लेते हैं, and that is one of the greatest problem. And rest everything being lazy, wanting to make quick money. Yes, even if you want to make quick money, I know people who are working in this field. Even if they want to make quick money, they are putting such a research on the algorithm, having some big professors to work with it. और इतना सब करने के बाद में they said if you see the overall result, when you see overall result, it will be profitable. On a day-to-day basis, it will not be. So when there is day-to-day problem, people get panicky. तो उन्होंने ऐसा बनाया हुआ है, like this famous tennis player Roger Federer, very profound talk he gave for a convocation. His success rate in winning the matches is 80%. His success rate of winning the matches is 80%. But do you know the success rate of service point winning every point, like 6-4, 6-3, 6-7? So somebody wins by 6-5. There is hardly any difference between one person to other person. But one who gets 6 points, he becomes winner, and one who gets 5 points, he becomes loser. So he gave the overall total. He said by 80% success rate in winning the match, but only 53% success in point. Considering he won the point 53% and the opponent party has won 47%. द्वंद्व को भूल जाओगे. If you forget the dvandva and focus on unreasonable profit, you become part of the 93%, not the part of the 7%. So these are, simple understanding given by these people. Okay, so therefore, including Lakshmi Devi, teaching of acquiring, retaining, and growing wealth is based upon logical principle, Nyaya Shastra. Therefore, our Sanatan Dharma is driven by Nyaya Shastra, not driven by sentiments. Right? And how we are driven by sentiments? There are 4 greatest obstacles in this Bharat. The commercial sports, right? The commercial madness of Bollywood, then political toxicity, and the cult of religion. ये चारों हमारे भावनाओं के साथ में खिलवाड़ करते हैं. एक में भी न्याय नहीं होता. When there is no nyaya, you can be sold for anything and everything. Right? So therefore, what does the Shastra recommends to us? When you harmonize between rasa and nyaya, when you harmonize between intellect and the heart, then there is a greater chances of success. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Can I ask Ankita ji to please ask her question?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
मेरा एक क्वेश्चन है कि what is the difference between worshipping Lord and spiritualism?
Yes, this is worshipping Lord and spiritualism. This is it may take some time to explain, but in essence, in the dharmic tradition, when you study Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is more interested in understanding his laws than worshipping him. When we do not understand the laws of life, and try to worship God, again, that also falls into the category of bhavana. Shruti Smriti Puranadi Pancharatrik Vidim Vina Aikantika Harer Bhaktir Utpate Vahi Kalpate. On great saint Rupa Goswami explained, when our connection to God is bereft of all the scripture which I quoted, which is only driven by sentiments, what does it do? It gives rise to radicalization of our relationship. That is called as tamoguna shraddha. The faith in the tamogun makes one feel superior to everybody else. Then if you are worshipping God without those understanding, then you will feel, not you means you, but anybody, they will see, oh, you don't worship God, that means you're a demon. So the worship of God makes you see nobody as good if they do not do exactly what you are doing. So that the worship of the Lord without the Shastra, without understanding of spirituality, only creates greater toxicity. There was this terrorist in Kashmir. In Kashmir file, he was shown, right, slitting,
Yes.
cutting the woman into two parts.
Yes, I
So they
saw.
asked him after catching him that will you kill your mother, father? Yeah, he said कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. अल्लाह के लिए हम किसी को भी मारेंगे. So this common sense is lost in the name of faith in God. Sri Krishna, when he came to Duryodhan, by far from all the perspective, Duryodhan was supposed to be given punishment, but punishing Duryodhan could cause a great war. No, we have to understand. Sometimes people are there, how can Krishna come to Duryodhan and ask for peace? Because it was not about Duryodhan. Duryodhan was not a person alone. Duryodhan was an idea. Duryodhan was a party. Duryodhan was the king. Millions of people were following Duryodhan. So in such a condition, you cannot take out Duryodhan separately and kill him. Krishna ordered that. He requested Dhritarashtra. He said, capture these four people, Duryodhan, Dhritarashtra, Karna and Shakuni. There'll be great peace. But nobody was able to do that because everybody wanted to fight for Duryodhan. So when Duryodhan was asked for peace, but Duryodhan denied for a peace and therefore the war happened. So therefore, the dharmic tradition, whether it is Ravan, whether it is Duryodhan, they are given an opportunity to minimize the violence. But on the other hand, when the faith-driven life, when it focuses on exclusive, if you don't believe in Krishna, then you're a demon. This is a very dangerous idea. Because I can experience ekatvena pratyektvena bhavda vishwatomukam. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita himself is saying, and that too after Manmana Bhavamat Bhakta, one of the best verses, there is saying, but there are some people, their worship is of a different nature. Ekatvena, prataktvena, they see in nature, they see in energy, right? So if I cannot see that, I only want to see God the way I want to see, and everybody has to accept that I could say worshipping Lord superficially is anti-spiritual. Spiritual means, as Prahlad taught, that one who is able to see God in many other places, appreciate any good you see, and therefore Krishna says, I am the ability in human beings. Whenever somebody is doing something tangible, when Tata left his body, he is not a superhuman being. It is not that he's all perfect, but did something good, did something bad also, right? Something good also, but the good was much greater and compared to his limitations. So naturally, will he be appreciated by the creation, right? Oh, somebody said, "Arey, he's a Parsi. How can he be?" Arey, he's Parsi for you and me, not from the higher realm. So that one respect, understanding, when it comes through the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, then our spirituality and worship of God become integrated. There is no difference between the two then. Till then, our worship of God becomes more and driven by Rajoguna, Tamoguna, where I feel mine is better, yours is bad. And that will only cause great troubles.
Thank
We'll
you.
take one last question.
Yeah, can I request the Zoom user to please unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yeah, sure. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Govind Prabhu. I have a question that is related to something that I heard from one lecture about Friedrich Nietzsche. He emphasizes a lot on the concept of power, and he mentioned something about how sometimes people, have this mindset that since we cannot control the external, then we need to focus on the internal, then that sort of makes us weaker. But if we look, I mean, like I'm trying to relate this to the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. I think the Gita also says things like that, right? That we're not the ultimate controllers. Thus, we need to control our mind on how we respond to the externals, right? So, do you think maybe that mindset kind of, make us actually weak in the sense that, oh, okay, well, since I cannot control the external, then I just focus on myself, and then I just let, life or the external decide on whatever happens to me.
Yes, again, the Bhagavad Gita absolutely integrates between the external and the internal. Now, if it was only internal, why in the world Krishna would ask Arjuna to fight the war? The entire Mahabharata, when you see in its own context, there is nowhere in the Bhagavad Gita only tells us to focus on the internal. If that was the truth, Krishna would have told Arjuna to get out of the battlefield and go back and sit in the home. Instead, the Pandavas collected all the divine weapons. They became very powerful. Therefore, Friedrich Nietzsche, he does represent certain principle of Mahabharata. There was an influence of Indian ideas without directly but indirectly. Therefore, he makes sense in many realities. He talks about Rajarshi without knowing about Rajarshi in his book called as Good and Beyond Good and Evil. He explains that the herd mentality has caused the greatest disadvantage to the society. And because of the herd mentality, you create socialism, where people without having any resources become heroes just because they are protesters. Therefore, the merit means what? A capable person. Right? That's what Gita is speaking. I am the ability in man. How can you say that ability in man is basically Krishna is saying, just focus on the internal. Read the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Read Arjuna's personality only. And Arjuna's personality is what exactly Friedrich Nietzsche is speaking about. Without understanding the principle of Dharma, he is still superficial, but better than most European philosophers. Right? So therefore, you cannot be internally happy perpetually without having a stability of material life. It is not to be seen in the world. I quoted Saraswati Thakur also saying that misery has to make you a misery and impetus for spirituality. Everyone who is going to the hospital should be like that, but we don't find that. Therefore, the basic principle of life, the avatar tattva, yada yada dharmasya glani, why does the Lord come? Whenever there is glani, dharma glani means disruption in governance. Disruption in governance becomes, problem. Then Krishna finds the Pandavas. And who are the Pandavas? They are Kshatriyas. What are the Kshatriyas? They are the administrative class. Their reference point is from external to internal. Brahmana's reference point is from internal to external, while giving advice for the external stability also. A Vaishya and Shudra also, their reference point is also from external to internal. And they said even the Brahmanas may practice the internal to external, but when they are giving advice, they will always give advice from external to internal. I gave the example of Krishna making the people of the Bhoja, the Vrishnis to settle down nicely, read the 10th canto. When you read verses properly with proper understanding, then you don't find the conflict in the dharmic literatures. You'll find much superior qualities of logic than Friedrich Nietzsche also. But yes, Friedrich Nietzsche, Bhishma Dev said is what Friedrich Nietzsche said. You read Mani and Mahabharata, I quote him. Bhishma Dev told Draupadi, hey Draupadi, Dharma can only be presented by those who are powerful people. And since the power is in the hand of the Kurus, and especially Karna, Dushasan, Shakuni, and Duryodhan, he said, we are helpless. And that is the time the Pandavas changed their gear. They became powerful and at the same time good also. So therefore, it is not correct that Bhagavad Gita only talks about internal. Bhagavad Gita harmonizes between I am powerful and I am servant of God. Only servant of God without being resourceful, it will give rise to depression for sure. I'm not saying successful means becoming famous. Successful means doing what is meant to be done by you based upon your disposition. That is the principle Gita speaks, and Gita's purport is the Mahabharata. Parikshit Maharaj he ruled for 60 years. He was more powerful than the Pandavas. His story may not have been given in the Bhagavatam. His departure is given, but you cannot deny 60 years of life, ruling more better than his grandfather also. That is given. He had a better record because when grandfather took over, there was a massive disruption because entire Sainya of the Kauravas was killed. The entire world was affected by a greatest war. So for it to be stable, it takes time. So the Yudhishthira Maharaj established the foundation and Parikshit Maharaj built a proper kingdom. And when the time came for him, he departed from this world without any hesitation, knowing very well, my Atma continues to lead. Who's that? His son. Okay.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for
Yeah, we'll stop
helping
here.
us understand how to be powerful materially as well as spiritually. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time. We have His Grace Avatar Leela Prabhuji sharing his perspective on mental health. Thank you and Hare Krishna.